Loo, hi. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Can. Loud and
Okay,
clear.
I'm just checking my.
Ya,
Boleh ya?
boleh. Okay, can.
Okay, wait for others.
I'm checking the live streaming right now. You have something to present? Sorry. You have something to present?
Testing.
Okay, can. Yeah. We got the background if you wanted to. Yeah.
Huh? Background? No need lah. I put this thing as my background lah.
Can.
You know that. Ini boomer difficult to deal with.
Okay, wait. Let me. I think we all need to mute for a while now. I'll let you guys know when we can unmute. Hi Mandy, we are now live. We'll get back to you and let you know when we going to go live, and yeah, now we just meet up. Okay.
Hi.
I think we need to mute first.
You okay?
Yeah, okay. I think we need to mute first. I didn't manage to find a way how to mute this part of it. Yeah. I welcome you to Inyala.
My well wishes are for inyala to achieve great success and to fuel Malaysia with beautiful installations, interesting educational value and meaningful interaction.
Opportunity to thank you all our partners. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to Inyala.
My well wishes are for inyala to achieve great success and to fuel Malaysia with beautiful installations, interesting educational value and meaningful interaction.
Has come to an end. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all our partners.
wishes are for inyala to achieve great success and to fuel Malaysia with beautiful installations, interesting educational value, and meaningful interaction.
inyala 2019 is organized by Hello Media, powered by Tenaga Nasional Format TV. Months of really, really hard work on these people all organizers part.
And inyala 2019 has come to an end. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all our partners. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to inyala.
My well wishes are for inyala to achieve great success and to fuel Malaysia with beautiful installations, interesting educational value, and meaningful interaction.
inyala 2019 is organized by Hello Media, powered by Tenaga Nasional Format TV.
Hello, hello. Testing, testing. Hopefully everyone can hear us. Yeah, you can hear me, Helios? Are you?
Yep, I can hear. Good, good.
Awesome, awesome, cool. Alright, so welcome everyone. Hopefully all is okay. Of course, there is like usual, there is some technical glitch and everything, so that's normal. Yeah, so welcome everyone to the first inyala virtual workshop or virtual sharing session. I think after 2 years of not having anything, right? So
Yep.
this is our first time having inyala back since 2019. And I think of course you know, we are really really excited to share with everyone on what we are working on and what Helios have been working on. So yeah, I think we're going to start the session with both me and Helios talking about, you know, what is inyala and what we have prepared for this year inyala. And then we're going to have these lovely awesome speakers and of panelists to share their thought about you know, what we wanted to do and also how we can actually move forward, and what kind of approach are we going to see for this year inyala. Alright, so I think Helios, you can share a bit about yeah, inyala this year.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Shakir. Everything okay, right? Okay. Hi, everyone. So this is Helios, and I'm the founder of inyala. So inyala was started in 2019. If you all still recall, we started in a place called Rexcale. That time we actually run a series of workshops there, and also there is end with an exhibitions. So this is actually the work that has been exhibited throughout the event for a month long. And there is a lot of I think about 8,500 of visitors has comes to us and then has enjoyed this. So inyala basically is a platform that we set up to let the young talents like you all to have a chance to showcase your work. It was actually from back then, was from my days when I lectures in different university and colleges, and basically final year project always only happen in the campus, and public doesn't really get a chance to see it. So I think it's kind of a waste because we spend years to develop our skill, and I believe that the final year project or our work should be seen to the public, I mean in a public space. So inyala is actually a platform that we let the public to see what new media art is like, and at the same time, to prepare everyone for that, we organize workshop that based on the current trend that let everyone understand about what is the current trends about on new media art. So this last year we talked about interactive, we talked about light art, and this year we have something new, which is we talk about generative art and talk about mapping as well. So this year we started our open call, and this is called the New Media Art Proposal on Digital Cube. And our tagline this year is called Beyond Light. And why is Beyond Light? Okay, let's start with our key theme. The key theme this year we talk about Sustainable Development Goals, SDG. This is something that I think some of you might heard about, but not really in depth, I believe, because this is not really well received yet. But this series of goals is defined by United Nations about what about all the society has to achieve by the year 2030, what we have to achieve to make the world sustainable. And there are a few, there are up to 17 goals here that you can refer to. And what's the challenge about this year is we want you guys to actually go through all these goals, pick one that you think is that you have some thought about it, go and study about it, find out the data on it, and make it visual appealing to the public. Because data is something that not really interesting to read about, it's just graph and data. But when, as a young designer like you all, you basically can know about what is this technique to actually bring this to make people feel curious about it and understand about it. All right. So for this exhibition date will be 26th of November to 25th of December this year. Yeah, we are like a light show for the Christmas this year. And the location will be at Fahrenheit, Bukit Bintang, which is like a prime area that most probably we can be looking forward for a lot of visitors this year, because we have like public transport reach to that place. So the competition is open to all undergraduate and postgraduate students who pursue a degree and master program in the art, design, digital and multimedia, new media, digital media program at higher education institutes in Malaysia only. And you guys are not limited to individuals or group submission. But I have to remind that you may submit multiple entry submission, but only one entry will be qualified to the final. So you can submit multiple. Yeah. So only one.
Can we know
will
how
be selected.
many finalists are we having?
16.
Currently.
16. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we have 17 goals, right? Yeah. But why only 16? I think we will find out more when the workshop go along. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the artwork requirement is here. Okay. So because SDG goal basically is a perfect square, so the canvas this year is actually a cube. So a cube is like there are a lot of faces to look at. Basically, when you look at something, we set up this is, first of all, for mapping is actually a very good challenge for you guys to actually understand like how to map these complicated faces. If you can look at the faces, right, the T means top, F means front, B means back, left, right, and it doesn't really in the same orientation on our requirement. But when you fold it up, it's actually is a perfect cube shape. So this is the first thing that we actually start off, which is you have to see things from different angle, and that is where we come out with the ideas of cube. That is a form of cube, and also it's related to SDG. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So each artwork has to produce and display based on these 5 phases, and the submitted artwork should be in video format of MP4 in the resolution of 1080 pixels, and based on the first pictures, right? So the visible area of 360 times 360 pixels on each face within the time frame of 30 to 60 seconds. All right. So you're free to submit within this duration. So must be original and completed within the last 3 years, and should be resonate deeply with SDG that you have selected. And generate curiosity. Generate curiosity is one thing that very important that for this. And we know that you might have issue on finding all this data, so we have contact with SDG PIC, and this is actually one of the main document that you can go through, which is the Malaysia Voluntary National Review, VNR 2021. This is like the official document that published that actually talk about SDG achievement in Malaysia, where we are right now. And also there are a few external sources that you can find, like USM, SDG Tracker, SDSN, and SDGs for Malaysian states. I have break it down to show you some interesting fact. So for SDG Tracker, right, you can actually look at the climate actions, right? Climate actions. And these are the data from our world in data. And by looking at this, right, if you are looking for SDG in the world scale, you can see that sometimes we we think that Malaysia is not doing that well, but for some part, right, Malaysia is doing quite well if compared to other countries. So when you're talking about SDG, it's based on what is your scale to look at this particular goal. Let's say for climate changes, like what is the death rate that happened from natural disaster from like 30 years ago until today, like what we has been improved, and what we are doing not well towards this. So you can see from this tracker, let's say there is another SDG called life below water. So there is actually something called sustainable fisheries as a proportion of GDP. Means like it doesn't really means that if a wealthier country can do much more better than a poorer country. It doesn't work that way. It depends on what is the percentage of sustainable fishery that happen in a particular country based on the GDP amount. That is a fair way to look at it. But whatever I talked about, right, you feel a bit boring because it's just purely data. So how to make this fishery, let's say the topic is the color is color in blue, but how to tell this story in a visual way and stir the curiosity for people to find out from the generative art. That is the challenge of this year. All right. And another site that I would like to share with you is called SDGs for Malaysian states. Okay. So here is something that very interesting because you can actually look into SDG achievement based on every single state, different states of Malaysia. And I have a very interesting fact to share with you is we always say that Selangor, like Penang or Johor, right, is more like an advanced states compared to other states in Malaysia, right? But the SDG achievement of these 3 states, I mean, accumulate scoring, is actually lower than Kelantan, not Kelantan, lower than Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, and Sarawak. So actually, these 3 states have higher scoring compared to Selangor. So that is where you will find all these things interesting because you can look at each of the SDG. Let's say the challenge. Okay, the scoring, like let's say for no poverty for Kelantan is 53, but you might see some interesting fact when you browse through this site. Yeah. All right. And also there is the Sustainable Development Report. This is a very interesting site you can go through, and there is like books that are reports and also database that is in Excel format that you can extract for your generative content. Yeah. So all this info, all this site, all this URL is available at the open call guideline on our website, inyala.my. Yeah. So this is the event timeline. So we are at our first workshop today, 9th of September. We will have our second workshop on 23rd, third workshop on 14th October. Okay. and open call submission deadline is 16. So finalist announcement will be 5 days after that. We will announce the finalist, 21st, and after that we will have a closed group meeting with the finalists. We will actually go through a lot of minor discussions, because after all, every single work, I mean every single SDG is only one finalist, and I know that some of you might choose the same SDG, right? So we have to like go through a drawing process that draw who is the one who need to change the topic. So in order to secure your SDG, I suggest you to look into something that really you are interested in, and work on it. Yeah. So the final artwork submission is actually 18th of November, a week before our final showcase. So we give you guys about a month to prepare for the final artwork. There are a lot of details that going to give to you, like how is the showcase, how is the space look like, and what is the things that you need to take care of. And until then will be the 26th of November to 25th of December, which is the actual showcase. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Yeah.
so means that we over time we also going to provide more details about how it's going to be displayed, and you know, they can even actually, if there is any questions from participant, they can also ask us and so on, right?
Yes, definitely. So you see, we were having like 3 workshops, right? So in between the workshops, if you have questions, you can just like send us message on our IG, or send us email, or you just contact us through the contact form online. And there is a section called FAQ, which we will collect all these questions and we will compile as an official answer to every one of you. So if you have questions, first thing you do is go to the FAQ sessions, and then you basically see whether your question is there. If there are none, then you just send us a message. And when we compile all these questions, then we will update our FAQ again. And time to time, we will reveal more and more info on our online workshop. So you don't miss our workshop, because every time we might share something about our event as well. Yeah.
Cool, cool.
Okay.
Alright, I think that's basically most of it about the introduction.
Beautiful.
Generally,
Yes.
oh yeah, there is a. I think people also wanted to know what they
What is
get
the work?
out of it. Yeah, I mean the because I remember in 2019 we had awards, right, for the students who win
Yep.
it. Yeah, so
Yep.
I think you can also share it.
Sure. So this year we have 4 awards, which is the best SDG awareness for those that relate closely to the selected SDG goal. The best creativity is come from where you how you creatively craft your work that actually bring out the message. And the best new media art is actually how you use a tool to actually um, um, compose your new media art. So we will have several workshops that talk about touch designer and others generative art software. So how to make use of these tools that actually generate this. And the best visual, of course, goes to the best visual appealing works. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Sound
All right.
interesting.
So lastly is a submission deadline. So please submit your artwork by 16 October before 12 midnight. So late submission will not be entertained at all. Yeah.
So
So please take note of that.
just also to clarify, Helios, this one will
Mm.
be just a draft submission to be one of the finalists, correct?
Yes, of course, the details that you put into your artwork, then of course the better. There is actually a guideline on our open call, that what is the thing we're looking for. Let's say for the concept, what is the work, what's the durations? Yeah, but you can give us like the ideas of the whole video, how it looks like. It doesn't really need to be fine tuned until like the showcase standard, because you know that there will still be 1 month. There will still be 1 month for you to fine tune
To
on it.
fine tune it,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly, exactly.
yeah,
That's what I thought also.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, for those student who would love to you know, join, don't worry about,
yep,
you know, you not knowing what to do and so on. Just basically contact us. We can actually guide you and help you to better understand what is the whole entire competition is all about, and so on. And I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it's kind of interesting, and since 2019 also, I think Anyala has been really focused at how to say, devoting yourself within sustainability, about sustainability.
Yep.
So it's nice to see that you guys actually use that as a key point. I mean, that is the main theme of the whole entire competition for this year. And
Yeah.
I think it's also worth to mention about the final output, which is the LED structure itself, going to be also a recycled LED, right? Maybe you can share a bit about that
Yes.
before we move.
Yeah. Actually, there are a lot of like planning that happens when we are talking. So we're able to like secure some. You see, LED signage is something that getting more and more popular right now on the road. But it's also create another issues is there's been more and more disposal of LED panels. But for what we are doing here is we try to get this recycled LED panels and we repair it and make it useful again. So we actually, I mean, there are so many modules of it, but doesn't mean that all of it is actually malfunction. So we pick up the best one and then we actually repair it. And I think more than half of the panel we will use for this event are all recycled LED. And of course, there will be more and more info that we will leak out throughout the workshops. Yeah. And
Nice.
yeah, but
Awesome.
that one is my highlight suddenly exposed it.
Sorry,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I think it's worth to mention and
True.
moving forward to talk about sustainability and so on. And I guess that's about it for introduction. You have anything else
Yep.
you wanted to share?
I think no, but I just want to remind that because the workshop is actually more like workshop is like the place that we interact. So don't be afraid to ask. I mean, if you have any questions, just shout out in the chat room here, and then we will pick up that, and then we will answer after this event, and also we will compile it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have difficulties of how to use certain software and such, right, or let's say how to actually gather data, all this, just ask during these three workshops, because these three workshops is meant for you guys to actually learn something new. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Helios. And I
Yeah.
think that's very very interesting, and is also I would like to also thank you to Helios to invite us at Filament to also be part of this project. We also
Thanks for the board.
devoted ourselves to provide a platform for a lot of other artists to experience doing new media art, digital art in the public space, especially. So I think this is also in line with what we wanted to do. And to also continue to talk about the sustainability of digital art, and also how that can also evolve within this competition. I think we can also later on invite our speakers, and also again thank you, Helios. We'll see you
Thanks.
later soon, so
All right.
we can
So
thank you so much.
thank you. So yeah, thanks, Shakir.
Alright, I would like to basically invite our speakers. We have 3 speakers today from all around the world. I mean, Southeast Asia mainly. So we have, let me share back my screen. We have Amanda Ariawan from Jakarta. She's a curator. I think obviously each one of these speakers will also explain, share or introduce themselves later on. We have Mr. Saubin from Malaysia, and also Miss Nabila, also from Jakarta. So I think we can maybe do a a bit of simple ice breaking, and maybe you guys can introduce yourself. We can start with Amanda.
Okay, hi everyone. I hope you hear me well. I'm Amanda, or you can call me maybe Lalun. I'm a curator, art writer, and I do stuffs with a collective called NWCN. Nabila is part of the collective also with our other friend, Koun, who's unfortunately not here today, but I think he will be in another session or something with inyala. But basically, the three of us work together mostly on our digital related projects. Um, yeah, that's all about me, I think.
Okay, cool. Can we have Mrs. Hobby to introduce herself?
Hi, I'm Sabit. I'm introducing myself to you all. Thanks to having me to introduce myself to you. I'm a friend of Shakir. I knew him for quite a few years, so I still like him a lot, right? Both in physical form or digital form. And I also have a short-lived curatorial collective with Amanda. Hopefully, we will get to continue it again with the same artist too. All right. That's all. I'm based in KL. Yeah. Thank you very much. And yes, I do different stuff, and most importantly, I don't do digital art. So I will talk about something else today.
Yes. Thank you, Mrs. Hobin. And Nabila, maybe you can also introduce a bit about yourself.
Hi, sorry, I have to wear my mask. So
It's
yeah,
okay.
I'm Nabila from Jakarta. I'm a multidisciplinary creative. So yeah, I think that's all from me.
Thank you, Nabila. Very short and sweet. So yeah, I think again the whole idea when I invited you guys to join in these workshops or sharing is basically just to have a discussion about moving forward with what we wanted to do with Anyala this year. So as what Helios mentioned just now and share a bit about the direction of Anyala this year. Mainly it's focused on the sustainability. Of course, SDG is one of the more organized part of it, but again, we've been talking about sustainability for a while, and uh, focusing or mainly looking at sustainability in digital art is something that I also wanted to have an idea or get you guys' opinion about it. And of course, we will go through some promise and lists that we've talked about before and so on. And I think again, looking at moving forward with digital art and the use of um, augmented reality, AI, and so on. So maybe we can start with Amanda. Maybe you can give a bit about your thought on how do you feel about the current context, like the current one. Um, what is happening? Maybe for those who, especially for students who watching, would want to actually know the current situation of especially media arts, new media arts, and also digital art around the world. And I think you probably gonna share a bit about it.
You mean the current creations or current
Yeah,
issues?
yeah. It could be current issues or it could be current curation also. Yeah, I mean maybe we can start with current issues first.
You mean like where to find media art that responds to current issues, right?
Yes.
Okay. Um, well, I think going back to the theme, which is sustainability, for me, being sustainable means being relevant, I feel, being more critical about what you are going to actually convey in your work, and whether that relates to what we are experiencing right now. Because for me, being sustainable is not enough about. Talking about environmental issues, it's not enough actually to call yourself sustainable. Um, the work itself needs to mean something um, to people collectively. If we are talking about um, installation art, because then we're going in the realm of public art that people experience and interact with. So yeah, that's my answer about what sustainability is in the digital art. But going back to your question, where do we find critical works that that talk about current issues. I think the internet is one of the best sources because living in Southeast Asia, to be honest, we don't have much access to those works. But we do have the internet, which is interesting to begin with. So go to platforms that talk about these digital arts, read more books, I guess. And if there are exhibitions, then go ahead and try to find out what they are. I mean, in Malaysia, in Malaysia there are some. Sorry, my cat.
It's okay.
Some interesting new media art exhibitions. For example, the ones curated by Yap Saubin. Maybe you can ask more to Saubin about that. Yeah, and Nabila and I have also been doing, some making some exhibitions that show digital art with yourself too, Shakir.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think a great way to find out is to connect with the communities that actually try to make these things happen. Yeah. So that's all from me.
Cool, great. Yeah, I think that's a very yeah. I mean, obviously we all work together, and I think we cross each other path before, and that's how we basically meet. And most of the stuff that we do, eventually actually have the sustainability points or sustainability kind of portion of it that we sometimes don't really realize it. So I guess the idea is to also put it out there, like, this is actually a really sustainable practice that we can also do. And yeah, I guess that's something that goes back to digital art, like, how digital art is a bit different than physical art, that we can actually make it more sustainable. For example, just to give a context, project that I actually work with NWC and both Amanda and also Nabila, where we actually built a sculpture and projected a visual of a digital art from artists all over the world. So I haven't have a thought about, it is there is a component of sustainability within that, in a sense that the artwork itself doesn't have to travel physically, it can just travel digitally. And also we actually shot the whole entire thing and record it for people to see it. So in a way, it sustained the artwork itself for a much more really long time, instead of you can only just see it during the exhibition time only. I mean, that's kind of thing that how I see sustainability in terms of digital art, media arts, and also new media art, I guess. So maybe I can also ask Saubin on what your thought about sustainability within digital art. Of course, you have your thoughts and stuff, and maybe we can start with, have you encountered a specific project that really focus on sustainable digital art, something like that?
Anything that you watch on the internet, I suppose, would be considered as a kind of sustainable, as long as no one remove it from the internet, I suppose. But I think I would still want to go back to what I promised you that I'm gonna do. I actually have slides to show you, just to share some my thoughts in this aspect.
Awesome. Let's do
Yeah, in a way, because I think it's also important for me to not just talk about digital art and just connect that with the notion of sustainability, because of the subject matter within this competition itself. I want to think about this as a kind of provocation to say, okay, why do we want to do art and digital, for that matter, and why are we looking into the issues of sustainability, which I think are important. The 17 goals in there set up by this very huge umbrella institution dominating the whole world, I think has a very important agenda for us to look into. But how does that motivate the participant to make their art in order to fit into this, or has this always been their calling? And if their calling to make art is actually somehow connected to this in the first place. So I have 3 slides only, but I don't want to to talk too much in the sense, so I think I will just show one slide, and then if you feel that you want to hear me again, you can call me out again. So all right. So yeah, this is the word, okay, and with this word I have these three texts. I think I want to test. Shakir, how good is your Mandarin now?
I can speak, but I cannot read.
Yeah, right. This is 真善美. Okay, it's actually very often used in when people talk about philosophy. It's a three important values. Okay, what is true, good, and beauty. But of course, use this in a very loose sense. You know, what is true, good, and beauty? Beauty, and it's not just limit to the idea of pretty or beautiful in a sense, but a lot of other things. But I think in philosophical, classical philosophical construct, this is like the three ideal that people want to achieve. That whatever, is it truthful? Is it real? Okay, and then is it good to me? Is it good to the world? Good to the society? Good for the animals and the insects and the bacteria? And of course, after they are true and they are good, but is it really beautiful? Does it give me interesting sensation, experience, imagination, ideal perfection towards the afterworld or afterlife or whatever? But these are interesting concept and abstract that in philosophy being set up. Now, what does it have to do with this art? Is here I want to just draw it even further to the idea of basically good, or the talking about goodness has to do with ethics. And true, in a sense, is what we know is actually truthful in this world, in this universe. Okay? What kind of knowledge do we have? And beauty, of course, relate to the philosophical domain of aesthetics. Again, aesthetics is not necessarily about pretty beauty only, but other kind of sensations that actually elicit and bring out something in us as human. Okay, so what does it have to do with art, right? I think this is very important because I promise you when I pick up this workshops slash speaker is that I want to look into this, and how can digital art, or how is art very often discussed? But we discuss this like, oh, is this art good? Is it dealing about telling us about moral story, the ethics of the world, of society, and things like that? Very often we fall into that, and we criticize work and say, this work is not moralistic, or this one doesn't teach us about ethics. And sometimes we think, oh, this artwork does not give us real knowledge. It's all fantasy, not important. Okay, right? And sometimes this book is not beautiful enough, or not too ugly. So these are three triangulation that I think very often artists or artwork is being put to test. Okay, so and I'm very concerned that when we make work that is just looking into the domain of goodness, for example, all right,
just one of it.
But yeah, just one of it is like, wow. So you might fall into the a narrow way and say that the art is to illustrate good, important propaganda information. You are here just to promote important messages determined by society, determined by institution. Okay, whether this is religion, whether it's health organization, whether this is actually a certain kind of a moralistic institution, right? So how do we look into that kind of things? So we have to be careful when we are assessing art based on the goodness it does to us, to audience, to society, or to the insects and animals and the tree and the plants and the planets, or the cosmology. The other thing is people look at, does this art give me interesting knowledge about how art will operate, about how institutions operate, about how values and it is created. So it's a kind of knowledge generating artwork, right? Conceptual work, even formalist work, for example, because you learn to make paintings, you learn to do digital art, right? And when you look at a certain kind of art, you say, yes, I know what kind of rendering is being used. I know what software is being used. I know what kind of painting is being. I know how to talk about it as a good work. Those are all knowledge actually, and those are all knowledge sanctioned within that industry, within that domain, within that practice. That is truth in a sense, and that of course, this truth and this goodness can always be challenged because there will always be discussed and being challenged and being debated with. But exactly. When are we going to say and look at say whether this work actually bring us interesting sensation, interesting immersive experience, interesting way of saying that, right, it might not talk about goodness, it might not talk about truth, but yet it's elusive.
Mm.
right? It's illusional. It doesn't exist in the real world. It's in the virtual world. You can argue virtual world is a real, new, real reality in that sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whatever you are doing, right, doesn't come from a real world. It's a new fantasy world.
Mm-hmm.
For example,
Yep.
how can we talk about that? How do we look into that? I want to, I think, invite the artist that thinking about making work for this, right? Drawing whatever data you're getting from, and not just think about, oh, is this truthful? Is this justifiable to the ethics of this work? I think it's also important. I think, from my perspective, is that how to challenge the artist to think in to be considerate of all this aspect. Okay, I have more things to do, but I don't think I should go further. I think we can come back again. What is the if you are
Yeah.
curious what I want to say in the next slide?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. This is basically what we actually going into, and this is great. And I think again it's all about balance out between all these kind of thing. I mean, we talk about sustainability, and the whole idea is also balance. Like, what just to also share what we do at Filament. We did quite a few public art installation with a few other artists and stuff. We found out that it's not really sustainable for the artist to just build something for an exhibition and then just throw all the installation away after that. We need to find a way how we can actually sustain that, and also at the end also balance out between whatever Mrs. Alvin mentioned just now. Between arts, between aesthetics, between ethics, and also between knowledge. How you can actually incite all these kind of thing within your work itself. And I guess that's the whole idea why we actually create this workshop and session at the first place. So maybe of course we're going to go back to you, Mrs. Alvin, later on. We can maybe get in touch or have some thought from Nabila, maybe about on your experience on certain work that you've seen that use sustainability within digital art itself or new media art perhaps. I think you need to unmute yourself. You need to unmute yourself. Yeah,
Oh, so sorry, sorry,
it's
sorry
okay.
about Okay, yeah. So maybe yeah, we can continue to talk about like why sustainability is very important, like
Mm-hmm.
in art, in digital art. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
not only the art, maybe in design also, maybe
Yeah, of
like
course.
yeah. Well, like I mean, like well, sustainability like requires a reconsideration of how we consume, like manufacture and I mean design art and I mean like objects also like
Mm-hmm.
it also provides the opportunity for artists or for the creator and designer to reading their approach, right?
Yeah.
hmm So yeah, sustainable art I mean blurs the line between the science and the design also for the benefit of both the audience and the environment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Of
Mhm.
course, definitely. It's interesting that you mentioned arts and design. That
Mhm.
coexist. I think we had this discussion earlier on. I mean, way before. Like because for me, design is always about problem solving. Like you solve something, and that is sustainable for me.
Yeah.
And I think if arts can also get into that realms of solving some things, or like what Amanda mentioned just now,
Yeah.
solving any issues. Does art really solve any issues, or it's just merely aesthetic, like what Sabine
Yeah.
mentioned just now? Like is it just aesthetic or purely just something to look at? So yeah, I think it's kind of interesting to look into that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what is considered in sustainable art? Like, I mean, sustainable art, like, is art in a harmony with the key principle of sustainability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, yeah, we have to, like, but we need to know, like, what is the difference, like, between, like, sustainability in art and design? itself. So
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
like
I guess that's also very interesting looking at both of you and also Amanda um, working together as a collective and trying to basically produce a lot of things together, but not at the same. You guys are not at the same time all together, right? So you know, maybe you can also give a bit about that thought on um, I guess with digital art, you don't have to exist in a certain place. You can also move to a different place, and
mhm.
how that can also leads to a much more sustainable practice of art practice, for example, later on, when people adapt to it.
Yeah. Or maybe we can say that digital art is sustainable because it's paperless. So we don't have a trash after.
Yeah, that's true. I think we had it. Yeah, it's so true. But then a lot of people actually also have the counter argument. Maybe we can also open the floor, not only for Nabila, Saubin, and Amanda.
Yeah.
We had the discussion when the boom of NFT. Like, how digital art is really sustainable, while it's not really sustainable for the environment. And maybe we can have a thought about that. Maybe you can start first, Nabila. What do you think about that?
Do you think about, sorry?
Yeah, what do you think about, we thought, like, digital art is paperless. We use, digital medium, but this
Yeah.
digital medium actually consuming energy, and that energy sometimes is not sustainable. So how that then reflect to us as a practitioner.
Okay. Okay, so for me personally, it's not always about the paperless. I mean, like, if we have a okay, for example, I have the artwork, like maybe is the digital art already,
Mm-hmm.
which means 2012,
Mm-hmm.
and then I remake it into the new one in
Mm-hmm.
2020. I think it can be also a sustainable because of we are like remaking it,
Mm-hmm.
and we still have a lot of space for our drive.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think that one is the sample for the sustainable art.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Amanda? What do you think about that? Like, how do you see digital art exist and also impact our current issue and our current community, especially within the art community? Okay.
Sorry. Hmm. Well, it's really tough. I mean, like I said before, talking about the issue isn't enough. So we need to look at in digital art. We need to look at the tools that we use in creating the work itself. For
Mm-hmm.
example, the hardwares, and then I mean, what Helios was introducing. I think that's quite nice that we for this Inyala presentation we're using recycled hardwares, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is also what Nabila and I tried to do in our latest project together called Tuala, which is an initiative by Nabila actually, whereby she designed clothings and installation works made of used fabrics, and we also invited a few, um, not just digital but new media artists to repurpose their old hardwares into sculptures for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, new media sculptures for the show. So I think
Cool.
hardware is one thing, but another thing is I think the data itself. So when we talk about sustainability, I think we talk about like having something that lasts, so the longevity of things. So I think when we talk about like data-based art, I think it will be interesting if we try to find um, data which is also sustainable, as in it is continuous.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, for example, real-time data of I don't know, the CO2 or sea levels.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is like the kind of data which has a continuous nature, and I think that in terms of being critical, it could also mean much more um, than temporary data.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I think moving also touching that to what Mrs. Hobby mentioned just now, about the knowledge or the truth goes back to the data itself, right? Data could be anything. Data could be, numbers, could be pictures, could be videos, and so on, right? So, I think also interestingly, also touching also a bit about this competition. I think the problem when I actually sit down with Helios and talk about how we actually direct this whole competition, and moving forward with the team itself, which is sustainable design goal. We don't want it to be just a very um, how to say raw data that being presented. We wanted to see how again, like the whole trinity of what Mrs. Sabrin already showed just now, how basically these kids or these students can basically take the data of knowledge and then apply the aesthetic into it, and also apply ethics into it. So I guess moving forward to back to you, Mrs. Sabrin. So maybe you can also provoke again on what do you think about that, on using data as your art itself. Yeah.
Yeah, I get to have my turn again. So continue, right? Just to wrap it up, I think it's interesting. I think Manda and I, we sometimes have this discussion. Data, in that sense, of course, you're talking about live feeding data and things like that, but we also have to be wary of the prejudice of data, which is like certain data about community, society, and things like that, whether there are latent prejudices, discrimination, okay, what kind of data is being used and called out and being applied. I think those are very, very careful, because we have to, and I think this is the area that I think we talked about before, is that surveillance capitalism, how it actually extract data to justify certain ways of mapping and profiling of society and people and so on and so forth. So the politics with this data is something very something we need to really think about. But that's not what I want to touch upon here, because I want to, in a sense, bring this up back data to the next slides that I have here. Is this looking at the idea of how, in a very old school 80s and 90s cultural theory, looking at or understanding how art is being explored together with emerging technologies, which is 40 years ago, but now it's no longer emerging technology. In a way, data has always been there, but is now the way it's being used and feed, and you actually find computational, accelerated computational mechanism to extract them and bring that into the kind of digital creation and manipulation of artistic and design work. Okay. Now, the different thing that Nabila brought out also, of course, in terms of the real material that we use are recyclable, environmental friendly, sustainable in terms of long term, and doesn't bring any disastrous consequence because of the energy crisis that we have. I think those are different areas that we can also look into. You touch upon NFT as well, and I think those are certainly problematic in a way. And the moment you deal with silicon-based computational devices that we are all using right now, benefiting from, right? Those are ethical questions that we have to ask, right? And that would definitely unsettle that trinities that you were talking about, because if you want to frame that trinity within even the context of this competition itself, right? You are heightening and pushing a lot of artists to think about it in that way. But we do not want to deny artists, like those who have been comfortable in expressing creatively in terms of design work, in terms of visual creation, in terms of artistic work, right? Using digital means, because you're a digital native, for example. Why not, right? I think it's finding a balance. I think Nabila talk about that in long-term projection. But what I want to bring back here is that the idea of how applying cultures, theory to look at how artists, for example, or designers were using emerging technology, digital and computational work in the 80s and 90s. One they find out is that we are still making art using the same way. Like if I can draw with paper and pen and colors, right, or oil paint and things like that, I will do the same thing with the digital screen and things like that.
Just draw on screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that a new breakthrough? Well, because for cultural ways of looking at it, and of course I have to be very careful. These are all based on very Western Euro-American centric ways of understanding the visual production and cultural expression. Okay, but I mean something that we can use to think about, right? So you say same old way, yeah, you're still doing this. You know, you've been painting. What's the difference between taking a photograph, painting, and things like that? Are you making new innovation? This is where the key question they want to say. Okay, when new technology is being introduced into a system, do you make new innovation in the center? It really spark people to think about new things, new experiences, and this is where we go back to my previous slide, 10 minutes ago, that talked about the idea of aesthetics. Can they bring in new aesthetic interest such that it inspire people to think otherwise, to inspire them to believe in new possibilities, not by ethics, not by knowledge, but how can art do that itself? Right? I'll do that in my next slide, but maybe I'll just get more strict. Out of the way means like the artists who use technology to deconstruct the technology itself.
Yeah.
Okay, if you think about artists who paint uncanny images, they push the realm of your realism into something so uncanny but yet looks so realistic. Okay, there are artists who push that. Okay, right? Uncanny Valley. I'm thinking about Uncanny Valley. Right, that kind of images, that kind of work. There are artists who do that as well, and there are artists who also try to deconstruct the technology such that it pushes us to thinking of, holy shit, what is the limit of this technology? How does it actually reflect critically on me? Right? Now the next one is actually the last one is new old way or old new way. It's just my reinterpretation of the 90s discussion about how postmodernism understand art is artists utilizing emerging technology is to really work and live together with this technology. And I suppose the idea of working with data and machine and towards, even if I would push and in a very simplistic sense, postmodernist thinking towards post-humanistic, right? Post-humanism in that sense, right? Thinking about using even artificial intelligence as part of your creative process is to let go the human-centric ego. Is to let go the human-centric ego, is to allow the data to also become part of your creative companion. But this would be very contrastive with the same old way. Because same old way is just that I have a computer screen, I do it, right? I just paint things like that. But the new old way or old new way might be something that could be unsettling. And I think I want to just very quickly just say, so what I would offer, okay, this is my last slide, make it easier. And because I have friends who have private messaging me and say, hey, Salvin, what the F are you talking about right now? I'll get to the next slide. They are curious what is my next slide, so I might as well just show the next slide. So my next slide is borrowing from art history, is that the contemporary art or the idea of contemporaneity in one strain is offering this. Either you look at world picturing, you provide a picture of what is the situation of the world right now. And I think for those artists who are thinking about using whatever the SDG related data right now, you should be looking at the other way. World making. What kind of world making are you trying to create? I hope this will be able to offer you something to think about, because world making deals from the micro looking out. Personal stories, small community data, small community, small sociological context. And then you look at because how did this small world, micro world, actually tell us something about the larger situation? And this allows you to actually come up with speculative scenarios, kind of speculative future, speculative art, speculative stories. It allows you to play with the data. The data does not have to be dry, moralistic, ethical way of saying, okay, this is that, this is color, this is thing. How does it affect to not necessarily human? Why do you think about how this data actually means to the bacteria? Why
Yes.
don't you think about what this data means to the animals or to the road itself, to the air itself? I think that opens up different ways of thinking that, and hopefully this will justify my presence here today to talk about something that I'm not able to talk about. And I
Yeah.
think this is all I have to offer tonight. Good night. Bye bye.
Sure. I think Amanda wanted to add on and share something. Why not Amanda jump in?
Yeah. So yeah, no, I completely agree with you, Sylvain, about the world picturing and world making. I think it's all about that. It's all about that, you know. So we're not just talking about what's happening now, but we're talking about like our speculations, perhaps, of what the future could be, like what kind of um, future based on the data that we find. For example, if you're really working with data, would we have, or what, or like in a more fictional or imaginative sense, you could also offer, for example, like alternative futures, right? Um, and I completely agree with the fact that in terms of the perspective itself, it shouldn't just be about when we talk about the conditions of the world, we're not only talking about the condition of us as human beings, but also trees, I don't know, fish in the in the sea and so forth, because they are also affected by these data. Like for example, if the pollution is high, it's not only about us. You know, it's also about other natural entities, and um, it's really interesting if it would be really interesting if artists can offer these views,
Yeah.
which we don't always talk about. Yeah,
It's true. That's true.
especially not by politicians. So
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting to also really touch about that, and I think um, because just to also share from my perspective on how I see data evolving in Malaysia, especially because a lot of people who have the skill sets from multimedia students or students who basically really train as from a skill set point of view. So to provoke or to invoke the idea of asking more and like create their curiosity of getting to know more, it's not within their training, I guess. So I hope that is basically the whole idea of having these talks on provoking the idea of asking and getting to know, or curiosity about different things and so on. And I wanted to also touch one point that Sobi mentioned about same old way. I guess that's what most of us practice now. Like if you can draw on paper, you can also draw on iPad or on tablets and stuff. But with the surge of this new technology, how artists can keep up, how artists can basically coexist with the technology itself is something interesting. And I wanted to touch a bit about a very controversial issues, not issues like topics that we have currently within digital art, which you also mentioned just now, Savin, about AI art, artificial intelligence art, and I think it's quite big of a topic that we've been discussing within the digital art community, and how we can use this as part of the tools, or this could actually take away of whatever we do. So maybe I can get Nabila to give your thought about artificial intelligence art, and we can go around the table about it. Yeah. You need to mute first, I think. Yeah, you need to mute yourself.
Okay.
Alright.
It's only about that, or maybe I can add something more other than that.
Yeah, sure. Of course. I mean, AI art is something that I wanted to basically talk about. But yeah, if you want to add on more, yeah, why not?
Yeah, maybe okay. Other than talking about AI right now, which means like it's very happening also right now.
Mm.
maybe want to put some suggestion that sustainability in art and design is not only about that, but maybe can be also from the style, which is like minimalist style is more sustainable than maximalist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because of like I mean like it's we can only just use, for example, like only one or two colors instead of more than more than like 10 colors is I think it's more sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's that's quite interesting take on it, the style of it, and I guess there is a lot of layers of how you see
Yeah.
sustainability actually involved within arts, and yeah, what is your take on artificial intelligence arts, and have you encountered AI art like
Yeah,
Midjourney
yeah,
and so
yeah.
on? Yeah,
That's,
what do you think
mm.
about it?
Um, I think for me personally, it's actually fun. For me, is of course because I'm like using it because it's actually fun. But
Yeah.
if yeah, but it's not it's not basically because I just want to do I just want to do that with I mean not only AI but I can use I mean any platform to make any digital arts right now. So yeah, that's why I was like talking about like the style is more minimalist because like it's actually simple and then can use any platforms also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, true. So what
But
is your take about that, Saubin? I mean, on
mhm,
AI. I think I saw you try out. I think Midjourney or DALL-E, right?
yeah,
Yeah, Saubin. You
sorry,
try. Sorry,
sorry,
Saubin. Yeah,
sorry.
I'm asking
Yeah.
Saubin about that. Yeah, you try AI art also, right?
Only consuming
Consuming.
the
Yeah, of
AI
course.
platform made available to make us look like we are smart, but actually we're just being dumbed down. For me, I
Yeah.
don't understand AI because I am just a user.
Mm.
I'm not the one working with the programmers
Mm-hmm.
and working with the artists doing that. So
Mm-hmm.
that is another discussion.
Of course. Yeah.
But I want to go back to this idea that when we talk about sustainability and the SDG, if you
Mm-hmm.
look at all the 17 goals I have in my background here in a digital manner, I think it's important. Okay, how about gender equality? How is that part of sustainable sustainable development goal? And how
Mm.
is that going to be reflecting to the work made by in digital practice? I think those are important. Talking
Yes.
about gender inequality,
Mm-hmm.
right? Different type of gender and sexual preferences and practices and things like that. How can that be data file? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
again, that's
Mm-hmm.
something that we need to be very careful, but
Mm-hmm.
yet make it interesting such that it actually challenges people to really reflect on this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how to provoke in that sense. I think those
Mm-hmm.
are very those are, I think I would like to see the artists really push,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the way they think about speculating an alternative reality. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
to again to borrow from Manda there, I think that was
Mm-hmm.
very important because our artistic work, digital or otherwise, all right, in a
Yep.
way should be able to allow the people who working with it, people looking at it, or non-people working with it, to allow the audience or the receiving recipient to imagine a different kind of possibilities,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, I haven't got to the stage of thinking about how does the computer understand the art made by another computer or made by
Yeah.
another artist, whether
Artist.
computer or not, all
Yeah.
right? I mean, that is a different thing. But that will be maybe the next part, right? And what I did in crayon.com is just, I wanted crayon.com to do their self-portrait. So I just enter Korean.com and see what Korean.com tells me about Korean.com. That's all.
Yeah.
So that is the only thing I can understand. So I don't think that is really playing with AI in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
I think those who really study AI,
Mm-hmm.
you talk about GAN, you talk about different type of ways of machine learning, you
Yep.
talk about different things. I think you really need to talk to these people to really
Yeah.
understand the possibility, right? But
Yeah.
from, I think, carbon-based, okay, basically I'm a carbon-based life
Yes.
form making art, okay? I'm not a silicon-based life form making art. I think we have to really consult a silicon-based life form and how they make art differently from us, and we can
Yeah.
collaborate together. But as a carbon-based life form here, I really want to see how other carbon-based are working with the new stories, new possibilities, new world making,
Yeah.
even allowing the silicon-based to be part of us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Are we all cyborg after all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool, cool, cool. I mean,
Okay.
really, nice take on that, and like just to also take what Mrs. Obi mentioned just now. Yeah, again, I think most majority of us who encounter AI now is just a consumer. We just consume, like we put in some prompts or some text, and then the computer actually show us the visuals. But again, it's just a consumer. We're not actually at the back end or creating it or developing it and so on. And I think understanding it would be interesting, especially for this project, the Anyala project, because how they started also is by feeding data or feeding feeding things to the computer, so that the computer understand that if you prompt something, it will then create something, right? So again, data is very important, and I think there's so much thing you can do with that, and understanding it, and again going back to what Mrs. Obi mentioned, this deconstructing whatever you have, and putting it all back together will be something interesting to see in the near future. Amanda, you have anything you wanted to say about the future of digital art or AI art, something like that?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit. Well, I think the fact that AR art is very much accessible right now, it's also a sign of it being sustainable. Actually, going back to the gender issue, for example, technology, especially when we talk about algorithm, was once only accessible to like white men, and now practically anyone can use it, and I think that's in a way a sign of it being sustainable. Yeah,
Yeah,
being accessible to the wide public,
true.
regardless your gender, your nationality, and so forth. So I like that part about AI.
Cool. Yeah, I think there is a lot of potential possibility. Like for instance, I think a few people start using AI as a tool, as a helping tool for them to practice their art. Like instead of they need to really work on the storyboard and sketching, they basically can prompt a sketch. So they sketch simple sketch and then send it to the AI, and it will develop a bit more variation out of it. I think that is really cool idea of working together, like what Mrs. Sabi mentioned. How you can actually coexist with the technology itself, and not like trying to defy the technology, or um, cancel the technology, for instance, but how you can actually embrace it and work together. And of course, I think it's always like that, like when the introduction of the use of digital software to create digital content and stuff, from the perspective of advertising, is a very big thing. It's a very big challenge last time, because people are used to do everything on the physical materials, and then moving to digital creation. It's also involve a lot of other things. Yeah, you wanted to add on
Um,
something, Amanda?
oh yeah, it's actually a question to Selvin. Like, how do you think like the presence of AI, um, how does that challenge like curating or curation in general? Do you think it has
Interesting.
anything to do? Yeah.
Why do we get into curating in specific? But I think I want to also just pick up
Right.
earlier you were talking. Yeah. Uh, Again, see, data is one thing, right? When you use a data of surveying, let's say a community and things like that, to find out the so-called gender inequality or inequality within the practice or whatever. Here, we also, although we are talking gender again, for example, or even community, how AI, for example, the heightened or accelerated use of technology could alter the appearance or the virtual identity of a user, okay, of herself, himself, themselves, itself, right? It's gender bending. If I play around with that, there's a gender bending uh, capacity, allowing it to take on different type of identity, to take on a different type of sensibility, right? But going back to that question is that in one way, yes, I think I can definitely see where Menda coming from. It allows different people to access that. But we also have to think about, okay, if I want to play around with that, again, the trinity that Shakir pointing out is that who has access to this data? Who have access to this mechanism? Who have access to this uh, usage of these tools? Okay, to what extent those who have access would be able to make it a safe space, right? And making space from others who doesn't, such that their participation becomes a meaningful part in it. And I think this is where I will link this back to another question to me, is that how do we do this collectively?
Yeah.
How do we do this collectively, or to at least open up to a certain extent? So I like what Manda and Nabila is working. Okay, there's a sense of collectivity. Development is a sense of collectivity in that sense, right? But we are always operating in this kind of fluid boundaries because we are a collective, but yet we are also dealing with different corporate, different institution, different institution in the sense of whether it's the commercial, educational, for me, for example, dealing with museums, dealing with festivals. We are all going through all this. And how do we maintain both your artistic integrity, ethical integrity, the integrity of what we know and how we share it, right? So curatorial, I suppose, would be another way is that to not just with AI, but also working together with in a collective, is that to make such practice and such knowledge about what we do or what artists do together. Artists here, okay, I think we will expand human, non-human, and silicon and non and carbon based, right? Such that they or we, right, can have a shared future to work together, right? The kind of knowledge, how do we make that interesting, right? I think Minda asked me that question because this morning I sent her a book. Hey, look at this, curating digital art in the future, and some of the questions that more progressive artists and curators working with media and digital art scene for the last 30 years, they have moved on in thinking about not just curating such that the digital art would go into institution. There will be some artists who want to think about, yes, it should go to institution. The whole danger or the whole phenomenon of what we call museification or commodification of art. But the more idealistic and more practical and radical one is that they're asking, how do I make this such that it's long-lasting or meaningful in a long-lasting sense to different community now and to the future, right? So those who talk about NFT, you know that NFT supposedly, if it is being hijacked by venture capitalists and future speculation, then it is based on the monetary value. But you have to look back in a different sociological construct, which is DAO. Okay, decentralized autonomous organization is a very important social political concept. But whether that will be internalized by neoliberal system, or whether that will actually really further encourage a more collective way. And collective is not totalitarian as in one whole world and one whole planet as one single collective, but different type of collectives such that we can coexist together, right? To use a very Javanese term, lumbung, right now. Okay, how do you do that? And I think it's important. I think maybe that is one way of, I think, how I would like to reply to another question to me, right? In that sense, to how do we share that resource? Well, even though it's working with AI and not necessarily let AI do that. Okay, because if you read your Asimov's tree theory of robotics, you have to remember Robots not supposed to harm human
Yes.
and not supposed to harm humanity.
Yes.
That was the third principle,
Yeah.
right? And then the fourth principle. Sorry, again, I'm talking too much here. So
No, I mean that
that
is exactly what Amanda mentioned just now, and also it's true whatever you mentioned. Because I think a lot of us actually see this in movie first, like you know what you quoted just now was from I Robot, right? So it was as if like we all now living in a movie. You know, things like getting real, like you know things in Matrix and in um yeah, Terminator is happening, but I guess it's show to people that people are aware and how we can then either prevent it or shape it in a way that we can shape it, right? So I think that is very very important, and I think going also back to the whole idea of this competition, inyala competition is basically to again become a catalyst on how we can then again make this more visible, like create this question much more visible, like you know how um, you know you can move forward with the technology, you can move forward with whatever we see in our life, but at the same time also step back and understand how we can then see this in a much more long term, how we can sustain this, whether it's financially, whether it's socially, and I guess hopefully that will be realized throughout these few months of this project. I guess maybe last thing that I can also ask each one of you guys is again maybe you guys can give a bit of thought on what is your best case scenario on sustainability of digital art, or probably sustainability on your own practice. So maybe we can start with Nabila. You I think your practice is you also directing, you are art director, right? How you can see yourself sustain whatever you do or whatever you practice now in a much more long term. Yeah, your mic.
Alright. Okay, so basically, right now, I mean, like, if I'm doing the creative direction or the art direction, I
Mm.
have to use like different. Sorry, maybe this one I'm talking about like my professional life, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, so it's like for every clients, I will like using the different materials, which is not good. For
Mm.
example, like if I make like one installations, like it depends on the clients also, right? So
Mm.
it depends on their budget also. So
Mm.
if I mean if they have this budget, but it's like totally different with my concept, which means like I want to choose the sustainable materials, but they don't have the budget for that, which means like I have to choose the cheaper one,
Mm.
right? Like maybe I have to use like plastics or
Mm.
something like that. Yeah.
Mm.
So I'm gonna tell them that after like for example the exhibition is done,
Mm.
can I use this again? So for the next project, I will use that materials again. I mean, I will reuse it again.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good take on it, and that I think similarly like what we did here at Filament also, we're trying to at least see how we can reuse the installation instead of just build something for one-off use,
Yes.
especially for art installation, because
Yeah.
yeah, again the material itself it costs a lot, and to build it and to just use it for only for a few months is yeah, it's
Mhm.
not a sustainable way to do it, right? Yeah.
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 Yes. Yeah. So that's why I told you guys just now. Like I mean, for example, that this style is better to make more minimalist, so we can use it again and again in the
Understand.
future. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
because like sustainability is also same with timeless, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think the design or the styles also needs to be like timeless.
True,
Yeah.
true, true. Yeah, yeah. Make it more flexible and adaptable for a lot of
Yes.
other things, which then it will go back to the sustainability.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Nabila. Maybe I can go to Amanda on the last question will be, you know, how you see yourself sustaining within. Maybe you can also give two thought on. One is how you see digital art can sustain later on in the near future, or maybe digital artists can sustain in the near future, and also how you can sustain your practice as a curator.
Okay. I'm going to turn things around a bit,
Yeah,
but
sure.
I think how as a curator I can contribute to this sustainability is being selective. I think continue um, to be critical about like what we are showing. What's I'm not trying to say that curators select. Curators need to. Sorry, I'm not saying that the selections rely fully on what curators like or prefer, but what I'm saying is that I think this whole talk also is also um, a good thing for me to like reflect on like what actually am I curating in the exhibitions that I'm making. For example, am I really at the end of the day selecting works or talking or caring for works that are just aesthetically pleasing, or are they really um, as you said, sustainable. So I think like being more reflective about that would be important for curators, because oftentimes we are put in situations whereby, you know, um, we only have a certain amount of time, or for example, we need to follow a certain selection of artists and so forth. So if we just take some more time to be more reflective on like what we are actually working on, what kind of works we're actually working on in our curation, I think that would help. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Yeah. Thank you, Amanda. I think lastly, Sobin, maybe you can conclude our session. Um, um, and I think you have a tremendous experience just observing how digital art or media arts actually evolving from the 90s to whatever we are now. And how do you see that moving later on? I mean, like, you know, in a way also reflecting to what we're trying to do at Anyala for this year.
Okay, let me try it this way. Since we are trying to be alternative or speculative,
Yeah.
I always imagine the future if all carbon-based life form, especially the carbon life human, right? If we derive our energy instead from all the proteins and things that we eat, and if we turn ourselves into solar-based life form, that'll be interesting, right? If someone can bring in, what is it, right? Photokinesis, right?
Yeah.
Photosynthesis. Yes, photosynthesis, right? Yes, yeah. So if we are not no longer petrol-based or based on electricity or whatever, if human can somehow, right, able to embrace photosynthesis, maybe that would be the ideal future. Okay.
Cool.
That
Really
cool,
interesting.
huh? It seems, is
Yeah.
it really possible, right? But I think that is where I think in a way my critique in thinking about this impossibility of wanting digital art to be sustainable in both ecological sense, in both economic sense, in both in political sense as well as sociological sense, in the sense that is sustainable and have longevity in that. But yet, I think the politics within is precisely the presence of human ego.
Yep.
Okay, and
True.
how even humanity can coexist with the so-called silicon-based or non-carbon-based being of any other form, right?
Yep.
Or else a lot of things we talk about are important, and I think we need to listen to that, because that is part of so-called the process and progress
Yes.
of humanities in thinking about stuff, in debating, all right, with all the ideas. I think 10 years later, someone will come back to me, maybe 10 seconds later, someone will come back. I don't know. To subscribe to what you're talking about, Sabine, right? It's all yes in a way,
Yeah.
right? But if you want to push your idealism in that, I think, okay, if you're all photosynthetic, it solve a lot of issues, you know, petrol, energy, solar based. But how do we hack our gene such that we are the main thing that can do photosynthesis? Solve a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Okay, right? Poverty, not poverty, food crisis, and and things like that. These are all interrelated, right? In that way, I think I want to take a different. So it is I hope it is an analogical and metaphorical way of answering that question, or thinking about, okay, what the hell is it trying to get us to think without really answering the question? Because whether it's commodification, whether it's museification, whether it's digital future speculation, these are all, for me, part of our culture, both humanistic and cultural debate that we are going through because of this so-called new emerging technologies. We have to remember, this technology we are using is just as power hungry and energy hungry as anything else.
Yes.
So if I would push the logic of what Nabila pointed out just now, minimalist, the ultimate minimalist has been commodified by Marie Kondo. Marie everything lah. Okay, can we cut down everything into basic 24 bits, 8 bits, right? We cut down our bandwidth right now. We are spending 2.5 hours talking here. It could have been just put it in one 10 minutes.
True.
So that kind of impossible ethical demand on myself could be very, very, very heavy. I believe all of us, when you kind of be critical, you ask back to yourself, how do we deal with this kind of client that we're working with? How do we deal with institutions we're dealing with?
Yep.
Essentially, the aesthetics is also a kind of politics, but not necessarily political, but it's a kind of politics in that sense. And it demands us to constantly revisit our values in a sense.
True. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, always revisit our values and stuff. And yeah, I think it's really nice to really talk to all of you guys, and have this discussion, and just really provoke each other ideas, and just talk about things. Maybe, of course, we all have different backgrounds and stuff, but I think essentially we are looking at the same thing. So I guess for me personally, when I embrace, or when I trying to actually build up my own collective, the idea is to how I can actually sustain myself, and also I can help other people sustain themselves in terms of practicing whatever they wanted to do, and also at the same time also financially sustain themselves. So I guess, again, like what Mrs. Somi mentioned just now, it's always about revisiting our values and making sure what we do. Of course, sometimes the intention is good, but does it really, true to the knowledge, or aesthetically nice, or ethically correct or not? So I guess, to conclude the whole entire session, what we're trying to talk about here is basically trying to plant the seeds to all of the students who hopefully going to join this competition, to think more critically about what you going to actually produce later on for the competition. So instead of just putting in some pictures and stuff, but have more you know, background on what you really want to tell, and of course, you know, there is a lot of way to do it. So again, thank you so much to everyone. I think we can actually invite back Helios if Helios is still around. But maybe before, but while we actually waiting for Helios, we can have one picture before we leave. So you know, picture of kenang-kenangan. Yeah. So okay, I'll do the picture with me. Hopefully, I can do it. Okay, Helios is here. Hi, Helios.
Hi.
All
Can
right.
we have
So
it in very low res so that it doesn't take up too much
too much.
space when
Okay,
we are
sure,
sending it everywhere?
sure. It's
Very,
more
very low
sustainable.
res.
Yeah. All right. Okay, Helios, you want to take one from your side also? Okay. All right. Okay. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Right. Okay. I have one. Okay. You got one, right, Helios? You need to unmute yourself.
All right. Yep,
Okay.
got it.
All right, cool. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Sobin. Thank you, Nabila. I know.
Sure.
You know, it's Friday night, and you know, you guys spend like 1 hour and almost 2 hour together with us, and look forward to meet you guys again. Especially for those who in Jakarta and you know the other part of the country. So yeah, look forward to see all of you guys
Yeah.
soon.
I'm cutting down energy by staying at home.
All right, Helios, maybe you have final say before we conclude the session.
Yeah, I think it's a great session. I mean, I actually was like really looking forward to be here because of I long time never heard Sabin like talking lecture because he's the one who always remind me of Star Trek. He talk about movies in our class, so that's a very enjoyable 2 years of my college life actually. Yeah. So when you talk about the iRobot thing, it's like bring back everything. Yeah. Yeah. So it's very fun process. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. All
I
right.
think we can share the the survey to the audience here so they can
Yes.
really feedback to us. Like let's say they have some questions, then we can put up.
Okay. Let me try to share that. Now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm currently sharing to the live on YouTube, so
All
that
right.
they
Yeah.
hopefully they see the QR code, so they can basically scan the QR code.
Yeah. 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 So appreciate if you guys can like give us some feedback and we know that how we can improve from here. Yeah. Yeah. And not to worry if your friends that actually missed the session because it'll be up at the YouTube channel, so they can actually revisit it when they need to and just ask question if they have any. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Do we have any questions from the floor, Helios, for our speakers, our panel of speakers?
Um, Not at the
Not at the
moment.
moment.
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
I think most probably they will actually feedback in the feedback form. Yeah,
cool.
where we can direct to them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Okay.
Okay. I guess that's all about it. Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you to everyone who also joining in the session. Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for joining, and we look forward to see everyone on the second workshop.
Workshop. Yep.
Yeah,
2 weeks later.
that one will be more. I mean, we're going to share a bit more on stuff that we're going to do, and
Mm-hmm.
also that specific session will be more focused on creating visual. So I think that one also going to be as interesting as this talk also. So yeah,
Sure.
I guess that's all from us today. Anything
All
from
right.
you, Helios?
No. No. Thanks, Nabila. Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Sabine.
All right.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Long life.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye.
Bye.